It was a bright, sunny Saturday afternoon in Maple Grove. Maple Grove was a small, quiet neighborhood where kids rode bikes, dogs barked at squirrels, and nothing big or exciting ever seemed to happen. Or at least, that's what everyone thought. The houses sat in neat rows, with green lawns and flowers in little pots by the doors. Birds chirped in the trees, and the air smelled like fresh grass and lemonade. It was the kind of place where you'd expect everyone to be happy and friendly. But looks can trick you sometimes, can't they? Now, let's meet Jake Carter. Jake was a regular guy. Not too tall, not too short, with messy brown hair and a big, friendly smile. He wore old jeans and a plain blue shirt that had a tiny rip on the sleeve. In his hand, he carried a rusty toolbox that clinked and clanked when he walked. That toolbox was his best buddy. It had hammers, nails, screwdrivers, and all kinds of stuff he loved to use. Jake had just moved into a little white house at the end of Maple Lane, number 42. It wasn't a fancy house, but it was his, and he was proud of it. Jake had a dream. It wasn't a huge dream, like becoming a superhero or flying to the moon. Nope, his dream was simple. He wanted to build some cool outdoor stairs for his new house. He could picture it in his head, strong wooden steps leading up from the yard to his front door. He'd paint them red, maybe, or blue, and they'd make his house look special. Every time he thought about those stairs, he got excited. He'd been saving up for wood and nails for weeks, and now that he lived in Maple Grove, it was finally time to start building. Simple, right? Just some stairs. What could go wrong? Well, here's where the trouble starts. In Maple Grove, there was a lady named Linda Grayson. Linda wasn't like Jake. Oh no, she was different. Linda was the HOA queen. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, which is a group of people who make rules for the neighborhood. They decide things like how tall your grass can grow or what color your mailbox can be. Linda loved being in charge of the HOA. She walked around like she owned the whole street, with her nose up in the air and her eyes squinting at everything. She had short, curly hair dyed bright yellow, and she always wore big, shiny earrings that dangled when she moved. Her voice was loud, too loud enough to scare the birds right out of the trees. Linda watched everything in Maple Grove like a hawk. A hawk is a big bird that flies high and spots tiny things on the ground, like mice or bugs. That's what Linda did. She spotted every little thing she didn't like. If someone left a bike in their driveway too long, Linda wrote it down. If a kid drew chalk pictures on the sidewalk, Linda grumbled about it. She had a little notebook where she kept track of all the problems in the neighborhood, and she carried it everywhere. People called her HOA Karen behind her back because she was always complaining and bossing everyone around. Nobody liked messing with Linda. Nobody. So, when Jake moved in and started unloading his toolbox from his beat-up old truck, Linda noticed. She stood on her porch across the street, arms crossed, staring at him. Her house was perfect white with pink shutters and a lawn so neat it looked fake. She didn't wave hello or smile like a normal neighbor. Nope. She just watched. Jake didn't see her at first. He was too busy carrying boxes into his new place, whistling a happy tune. He set his toolbox down by the front door and wiped sweat off his forehead. This is gonna be great, he said to himself, imagining those stairs again. The next day, Saturday, Jake got to work. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and he felt good. He pulled on his work gloves. Those are the thick gloves you wear so you don't get splinters, and grabbed his hammer. He had some wood stacked in the yard, big pieces he'd bought from the store. They smelled fresh, like trees, and he couldn't wait to start. He measured the spot where the stairs would go, right in front of his house. It was a little hill that sloped up to the door, and he figured 5 or 6 steps would do the trick. Easy peasy, right? He picked up a piece of wood, lined it up, and banged in the first nail. Bang, bang, bang. The sound echoed a little, but Jake didn't mind. He loved building things. Across the street, Linda's eyes narrowed. She didn't like that noise. She didn't like that wood. And she really didn't like Jake. She stepped off her porch, her flip-flops slapping the ground, and marched over to his yard. Hey, she shouted, her voice sharp like a teacher yelling at a kid who's running in the hall. Jake looked up, surprised. He hadn't even seen her coming. Hi there, he said, smiling. He thought maybe she was coming to say hello. Boy, was he wrong. What do you think you're doing? Linda snapped. She pointed at the wood like it was a pile of trash. What's all this junk in your yard? Jake scratched his head, still holding the hammer. Oh, I'm just building some stairs, he said. For my house. It'll be real nice when it's done. Linda's face turned red, like a tomato about to burst. Stairs, she said, her voice getting louder. You can't just build stairs. This is Maple Grove. We have rules. Jake blinked. Rules. He didn't know about any rules. He just moved in. What rules? He asked, trying to be polite. Linda puffed up her chest, like a bird fluffing its feathers. HOA rules, she said. You can't build anything without asking me, asking the HOA. And I don't like those stairs. They're ugly. They'll ruin the neighborhood. Jake looked at his pile of wood. It was just wood. How could it ruin anything? But Linda wasn't done. Take it down, she said. Or I'll make you sorry. Jake didn't get mad. He didn't yell back. He just nodded a little and said, okay, I'll think about it. But inside, he wasn't worried. See, here's the thing nobody knew yet, not Linda, not the neighbors, not even the squirrels running around the trees. Jake wasn't just some guy with a hammer. Oh no. He had a secret. A big one. And Linda? She was about to wish she'd never messed with him. Let's rewind a little, so you can picture it better. Jake wasn't always a guy who lived in Maple Grove. Before he moved here, he had a different life. He didn't talk about it much, because he liked keeping things quiet. But back in his old town, Jake was good at figuring things out. He could look at a problem like a puzzle with missing pieces and solve it. People trusted him to help when things got tricky. That's all you need to know for now, but trust me, it's important. Jake wasn't scared of Linda because he'd seen worse than an angry lady with a notebook. Back to that sunny Saturday. Linda stomped off after yelling at Jake, her flip-flops making loud slap-slap noises on the pavement. She went back to her perfect house and slammed the door. Jake watched her go, then shrugged. He wasn't going to stop building just because she said so. He picked up his hammer again and kept going. Bang, bang, bang. The stairs were starting to take shape, one piece of wood at a time. He smiled to himself. He liked making things with his hands. It made him feel strong. But Linda wasn't done. Not even close. She peeked out her window, hiding behind her pink curtains, and watched Jake work. She didn't like how calm he was. Most people got nervous when she yelled at them. They'd apologize or beg her to leave them alone. But Jake? He just kept hammering, like she was no big deal. That made her mad. Really mad. She grabbed her little notebook and wrote something down, her pen scratching the paper so hard it almost tore. New guy at 42 Maple Lane, she muttered. Breaking rules. Building ugly stairs. Trouble. The sun started to dip lower in the sky, turning everything orange and pink. Jake's yard looked nice with the new stairs starting to come together. He had 2 steps done already, and they were sturdy. You could walk on them without wobbling. He stepped back to look at his work, wiping dirt off his hands. Not bad, he said out loud. A little sparrow landed nearby and chirped, like it agreed with him. Jake laughed. He didn't know Linda was still watching, plotting her next move. Here's where it gets interesting. Linda didn't know Jake, but Jake knew people like Linda. He'd met them before, bossy types who thought they could push everyone around. In his old life, he'd learned how to handle them. He didn't fight or shout. He just watched and waited, like a cat waiting for a mouse to make a mistake. Linda thought she was the smart one, but Jake was smarter. He didn't show it yet, though. He wanted her to think he was just a regular guy with a toolbox. That was part of his secret. The neighborhood was quiet now. Kids had gone inside for dinner, and the dogs weren't barking anymore. Jake sat on his half-built stairs, drinking a glass of water. He looked up at the stars starting to peek out in the sky. He liked it here in Maple Grove, even with Linda being mean. He wasn't going to let her ruin his dream. Those stairs were going up, no matter what she said. But he had a feeling deep down in his belly that Linda wasn't going to stop. She'd be back. And when she came, Jake would be ready. Across the street, Linda turned off her lights and went to bed, still grumbling about Jake. She didn't like losing. She didn't like people ignoring her rules. Tomorrow, she'd do something about it. She'd show that new guy who was boss. But what she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Jake wasn't just building stairs. He was building something bigger. Something that would turn Maple Grove upside down. So, that's how it started. A sunny day, a guy with a hammer, and a lady who didn't like him. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But simple things can hide big surprises. Jake had a secret, and Linda was about to find out what it was. She thought she was in charge, but she was wrong. Dead wrong. What do you think Jake's secret is? Why isn't he scared of Linda? Stick around, because this story's just getting started. It was a bright, sunny day in Maple Grove, and Jake Carter was busy working on his outdoor stairs. The wood smelled fresh, and his hammer made a loud bang, bang, bang as he nailed pieces together. He liked the sound. It felt good to build something with his own hands. His little white house at 42 Maple Lane was starting to look better already, even if he'd only finished a couple of steps. Jake wiped sweat off his forehead and smiled. He was happy. But then, trouble showed up. Linda Grayson strutted over to Jake's yard like she owned the whole neighborhood. Her nose was high in the air, like she was sniffing something bad. She wore a bright green shirt and flip-flops that slapped the ground with every step. Her curly yellow hair bounced a little, and her big earrings jingled. In her hand, she held her little notebook, the one she used to write down everything she didn't like. And right now, she didn't like Jake's stairs. Not one bit. Those stairs are an eyesore, she barked, her voice loud and sharp. She pointed at the pile of wood like it was a crime scene, like someone had dumped trash all over the yard. They're ugly. They don't belong here. Jake looked up from his work, his hammer still in his hand. He wasn't mad or scared. He just tilted his head a little, like he was curious. "Hey, Linda," he said, nice and easy. "I'm just building some stairs for my house. What's wrong with that?" Linda's face turned red, like a balloon about to pop. "What's wrong?" she shouted. "They're against the rules. This is Maple Grove. We have HOA rules, and you can't just build whatever you want." She waved her notebook at him, like it was a magic wand that could make the stairs disappear. "I'm calling the cops," she said, her eyes squinting at him. "You'll see. They'll make you take this junk down." Jake didn't stop hammering. He banged another nail into the wood, bang, bang, and gave her a little smile. "Go ahead," he said, calm as could be. His voice was soft, like he was talking to a friend, not someone yelling at him. That made Linda even madder. She sneered, showing her teeth like a grumpy cat. "You think you're so smart, huh?" she snapped. "New guy doesn't know his place. Well, I'll show you who's boss around here." She turned around and marched back to her house, her flip-flops going slap, slap, slap on the ground. Jake watched her go. He didn't yell back. He didn't get upset. He just kept working, like nothing happened. See, Linda didn't scare Jake. Not even a little. He'd dealt with worse people before, way worse than a loud lady with a notebook. But Linda didn't know that. She thought she was the queen of Maple Grove, the one who made all the rules and told everyone what to do. She thought Jake was just some new guy who didn't matter. Oh, how wrong she was. She had all the power, or so she thought, until she started to push too far. Back at her perfect house across the street, Linda was fuming. Fuming means she was super mad, like a volcano ready to blow up. She slammed her front door so hard the windows shook. Inside, she grabbed her phone and started pacing around her living room. Pacing is when you walk back and forth because you're too angry to sit still. "That new guy thinks he can ignore me," she muttered to herself. "Building those stupid stairs like he owns the place? No way. I'll fix him." She peeked out her window, hiding behind her pink curtains, and watched Jake. He was still hammering, still smiling, like he didn't have a care in the world. That made her blood boil. She didn't like it when people weren't afraid of her. Most of the neighbors in Maple Grove listened to her. If she said, "Cut your grass," they cut it. If she said, "No loud music," they turned it off. But Jake? He didn't care. He just kept going, bang, 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 and it drove her crazy. Linda flipped open her notebook and started writing. Her pen scratched the paper fast, like she was carving her anger into it. New guy at 42 Maple Lane, she wrote. Breaking HOA rules. Ugly stairs. Disrespectful. She underlined disrespectful 3 times, pressing so hard the pen almost broke. Then she grabbed her phone again and dialed a number. Not the cops, not yet. She called her friend Betty, who lived 2 houses down. Betty. Linda said when her friend picked up. You won't believe this. The new guy across the street is building stairs. Stairs. Right in his yard. They're horrible. Betty's voice came through the phone, soft and nervous. Oh, that sounds bad, Linda. What are you gonna do? Linda grinned, like a wolf spotting a rabbit. I'm gonna call the cops, she said. He'll learn not to mess with me. Meanwhile, Jake was still in his yard, working away. The sun was high now, making everything hot and bright. He took a break and sat on his half-built stairs, drinking water from a big plastic cup. The stairs were looking good, 3 steps done, strong and steady. He ran his hand over the wood, feeling how smooth it was. Nice, he said to himself. A little bird hopped by and chirped, like it was saying, good job. Jake chuckled. He liked little moments like that. But then he heard something, a loud slap, slap, slap coming his way again. Linda was back. This time, she had her phone in one hand and her notebook in the other. She stopped at the edge of his yard and pointed at him. I warned you, she yelled. I'm calling the cops right now. You're in big trouble, mister. Jake looked up at her, still calm. Okay, he said, shrugging. Do what you gotta do. He didn't even stand up. He just took another sip of water and watched her. Linda's eyes got wide. She couldn't believe it. Okay, she shouted. That's all you've got to say? You're gonna be sorry. She started pressing buttons on her phone, muttering to herself. Hello, police. Yes, this is Linda Grayson from Maple Grove. There's a guy here breaking the rules. He's building something illegal in his yard. You need to come quick. She glared at Jake while she talked, like she was trying to scare him with her eyes. Jake didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just sat there, listening to her yell into the phone. The truth was, he wasn't worried at all. Linda thought she had him trapped, like a mouse in a corner. She thought the cops would show up, tear down his stairs, and make him look silly in front of everyone. She thought she'd win. But here's the thing, Jake had seen stuff like this before. Back in his old life before he moved to Maple Grove, he'd met people who yelled and threatened and tried to boss him around. And every time, he'd come out on top. Linda didn't know that yet, but she was about to find out. Let's take a step back for a second. Imagine you're Jake, sitting on those stairs. The sun's shining, the birds chirping, and this loud lady is screaming about calling the cops. Would you be scared? Most people might be. Cops sound serious, right? But Jake wasn't like most people. He had a way of staying cool, like a superhero who knows he's got a secret power. What was his secret? Well, we're not telling you everything yet, that's for later. But trust me, it's a good one. Linda finished her call and put her phone in her pocket. They're coming, she said, crossing her arms. You'll see. Those stairs are history. She smiled, thinking she'd won already. Jake nodded, like he was agreeing with her. All right, he said. Guess we'll wait and see. Then he stood up, stretched his arms, and picked up his hammer again. Bang, bang, bang. He went right back to work, like Linda wasn't even there. That made her nuts. What are you doing? She yelled. Stop that. The cops are on their way. Jake looked over his shoulder at her. I heard you, he said. But I like building. Might as well keep going till they get here. Linda's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, like a fish gasping for air. She didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever ignored her like this before. She stomped her foot so hard her flip-flop almost flew off. You're gonna regret this, she shouted, then turned and marched back to her house. Jake kept hammering. The stairs were up to 4 steps now, and they looked awesome. He didn't care about Linda's threats. He wasn't breaking any real rules, just her silly HOA ones. And even if the cops came, he wasn't scared. Why? Because Jake had something up his sleeve. Something Linda didn't see coming. She thought she was pushing him around, but she was the one stepping into trouble. Across the street, Linda sat on her porch, waiting for the police. She tapped her foot and checked her phone every minute. "Where are they?" she muttered. "They should be here by now." She wanted to see Jake in handcuffs, or at least see him begging her to forgive him. She wanted everyone in Maple Grove to know she was in charge. But every time she looked at Jake, he was just working. Smiling. Calm. It made her so mad she could scream. The neighborhood was quiet, except for Jake's hammering. Kids were inside, and the dogs were napping. The sun started to dip a little, turning the sky pink. Linda's anger grew bigger with every bang from Jake's hammer. She didn't get it. Why wasn't he scared? Why didn't he stop? Most people would have given up by now. But Jake wasn't most people. He dealt with worse, like way worse, and Linda's little tantrum was nothing to him. She didn't know that, though. She thought she had all the power. She thought she could snap her fingers and make Jake disappear. But she was wrong. She'd pushed him, sure. She'd yelled and threatened and called the cops. But she'd pushed too far. And when you push someone like Jake too far, something happens. Something big. Linda was about to learn that the hard way. So there they were, Jake building his stairs, Linda glaring from her porch. The tension was thick, like the air before a storm. You could feel it. Something was coming. Linda thought it was the cops coming to save her. Jake knew better. He wasn't scared of her, and he wasn't scared of the police. He had a trick up his sleeve, a secret she'd never guess. What was it? How could a guy with a toolbox not be worried about all this? Hang on, because this story's about to get wild. Days went by in Maple Grove, and Linda Grayson wouldn't let up. She was like a dog with a bone. She just wouldn't stop bothering Jake Carter about his outdoor stairs. Every morning, afternoon, and even at night, she found a new way to make his life tricky. She'd march over to his little white house at 42 Maple Lane, her flip-flops slapping the ground, and yell at him. She'd snap pictures of his stairs with her phone, click, 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 like she was collecting proof for a big case. She'd scribble complaints in her little notebook, her pen scratching so fast it sounded like a mad chicken. And sometimes, she'd bang on his front door so loud the whole street could hear it, bang, bang, bang. "Take it down, or else," she'd yell, her voice sharp and mean. "Those stairs are ugly. They're against the rules. You're ruining Maple Grove." Jake never yelled back. He didn't argue or get mad. He just stayed quiet, watching her every move. His brown eyes followed her as she waved her arms and stomped around. He'd nod a little, like he was listening, but he didn't stop building. Nope. Every day, those stairs got a little taller, a little stronger. Linda thought he was just some guy who liked wood and hammers, but she was wrong. Jake wasn't just building stairs, he was building a plan. A big, secret plan. Let's start with Monday. The sun came up, bright and warm, and Jake was outside early. He wore his old jeans and a red shirt with a tiny hole near the elbow. His toolbox sat open in the grass, full of shiny nails and tools. He hummed a little song while he worked, bang, 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 adding another step to his stairs. They were up to 5 steps now, and they looked good. Strong enough to stand on, smooth enough to sit on. Jake smiled at them, proud of what he'd made. Across the street, Linda peeked out her window. She didn't like that smile. She didn't like those stairs. She grabbed her phone and ran outside, her green flip-flops flapping. "Hey," she shouted, holding up her phone like a weapon. Click, click. She took pictures of the stairs from every side, front, left, right, even from across the street. "I've got proof now," she said, glaring at Jake. "You can't build stuff without asking me, I mean, the HOA. I'm writing this down." She flipped open her notebook and started scribbling. Illegal stairs. New guy breaking rules. Trouble. Jake looked up from his work. "Morning, Linda," he said, nice and calm. "Taking pictures again?" Linda huffed, her face turning pink. "You bet I am," she snapped. "These pictures are going to the HOA meeting. Everyone's gonna see what a mess you're making." Jake just shrugged. "Okay," he said, and went back to hammering. Bang, bang. That made Linda mad. She wanted him to fight back or say sorry, but he didn't. He just kept going, like she was a buzzing fly he could ignore. Tuesday was worse. Linda didn't just take pictures, she started knocking on Jake's door. It was lunchtime, and Jake was inside eating a peanut butter sandwich. He heard the loud bang, 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 and sighed. He put down his sandwich, wiped his hands on his jeans, and opened the door. There was Linda, her notebook in one hand, her other hand pointing at him. "You need to stop," she yelled. "Take those stairs down right now, or I'll make you sorry." Her yellow hair bounced as she shook her head, and her earrings jingled like bells. Jake leaned against the door, crossing his arms. "Hey, Linda," he said, still calm. "I'm just eating lunch. Can this wait?" Linda's eyes got big. "Wait," she shouted. "No, it can't wait. Those stairs are a problem, and you're a problem. Take them down." Jake didn't say much. He just nodded and said, "I'll think about it." Then he closed the door softly, not slamming it, and went back to his sandwich. Linda stood there, her mouth open. She couldn't believe it. He didn't even fight. She stomped back to her house, muttering, "He'll see. He'll see." Wednesday, she came back. This time, it was after dinner. The sky was getting dark, and the stars were starting to peek out. Jake was outside, sitting on his stairs, looking at the sky. He liked how quiet it was at night. But then bang, 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 Linda was at his door again. Jake got up and opened it. "Take it down," Linda yelled, her voice loud enough to wake the birds. "I'm not kidding. You're in big trouble now." Jake rubbed his eyes, like he was tired. "It's kinda late, Linda," he said. "Maybe tomorrow." Linda turned red. "Tomorrow? No. Now." But Jake just said, "Good night," and closed the door again. Linda didn't give up. Every day, she found a new way to bug him. Thursday, she took more pictures, click, 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 and wrote more in her notebook. Friday, she knocked on his door 3 times, morning, noon, and night. "Take it down, or else," she kept saying. Jake never got mad. He never shouted. He just watched her, quiet and careful, like a cat watching a mouse. Linda thought he was scared deep down, but he wasn't. He was waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Then came Saturday night. This was when things got really interesting. The sun was gone, and the neighborhood was dark. Street lights glowed yellow, and crickets chirped in the grass. Jake was outside, standing by his stairs. They were almost done now, 7 steps, tall and sturdy. He was checking them, making sure every nail was tight. Across the street, Linda was in her house, peeking through her pink curtains. She couldn't see much, but she didn't like that Jake was still out there. "What's he doing now?" she muttered, squinting into the dark. That's when she saw it. A car rolled up to Jake's house, a dark car, black as the night, with its lights turned off. It stopped in his driveway, quiet as a shadow. Linda's heart beat fast. Who was that? She leaned closer to her window, her nose almost touching the glass. The car door opened, and someone stepped out. It was too dark to see their face, just a tall shape in a coat. The person walked over to Jake, and they started talking. Linda couldn't hear what they said, but she saw Jake nod, then shake the person's hand. They talked for a minute, maybe 2, then the person got back in the car and drove away. Linda's hands shook. Who was that? Why was Jake talking to someone in a creepy dark car? She didn't know, but it made her nervous. Really nervous. Something's not right, she whispered to herself. She grabbed her phone off the table, her fingers fumbling with the buttons. She dialed 911, her voice shaky when the operator answered. "Hello? Yes, this is Linda Grayson from Maple Grove. There's a suspicious man at 42 Maple Lane. He's up to no good. I just saw him with someone in a dark car. You need to come quick." The operator asked her a few questions, where she lived, what she saw, but Linda was too worked up to answer slow. "Just hurry," she said, then hung up. She peeked out the window again. Jake was still there, standing by his stairs, looking calm as ever. He didn't seem worried at all. Linda smirked a little. "Call the cops on me, will you?" she thought. Well, now they're coming for you. She thought she'd finally won. She thought Jake was in trouble now. But here's the thing, Linda didn't know everything. She didn't know Jake was one step ahead. That dark car? It wasn't just some random visitor. It was part of Jake's plan. See, Jake wasn't just a guy who liked building stuff. He was smart. Really smart. Back in his old life before Maple Grove, he'd learned how to watch people, how to wait, how to turn things around. Linda thought she was the hunter, catching Jake in a trap. But Jake was the hunter, and Linda was walking right into his net. Let's picture it. Linda's in her house, feeling proud, thinking the police are coming to get Jake. Jake's outside, cool as a cucumber, knowing something she doesn't. What was he talking to that person about? Who was in that car? Why wasn't he scared? Little hints were starting to pop up, small revelations, like puzzle pieces falling into place. Jake wasn't just building stairs to make his house pretty. He was building them for a reason. And that reason was tied to his secret, a secret Linda was about to trip over. Days had passed since Linda first yelled at him, and she hadn't stopped. Pictures, complaints, banging on his door, she'd done it all. But Jake stayed quiet, watching her every move. He didn't fight back because he didn't need to. He was waiting for her to push too far, to make a mistake. And that 911 call? That was her mistake. She thought she was so clever, calling the cops on him. But Jake wasn't worried. He'd seen worse than Linda, and he'd handled worse. That dark car was proof something bigger was coming. The night stayed quiet after the car left. Jake went back inside his house, turning off the lights. Linda stayed by her window, waiting for sirens. She thought she'd see red and blue lights any minute, thought she'd watch Jake get hauled away. But nothing happened yet. The street was still, the crickets kept chirping, and Jake's stairs stood tall in the dark. Linda didn't get it. Why wasn't he running? Why wasn't he scared? She didn't know he was one step ahead, always one step ahead. So, there they were. Linda, thinking she'd won. Jake, knowing she hadn't. The tension was growing, like a rubber band stretching tighter and tighter. Something was going to snap soon. Linda's pictures and complaints were piling up, but Jake's plan was growing too. That dark car, that quiet handshake, it was a clue. A small revelation. Jake wasn't just some new guy with a toolbox. He was something more. And Linda? She was about to find out what. What do you think? Who was in that car? Why's Jake so calm? Stick around, this story's heating up. It was a dark night in Maple Grove, and the air felt heavy, like something big was about to happen. Jake Carter was outside by his stairs, the ones he'd been building for days. They were tall now, 8 steps high, painted red, and looking strong. He stood there, hands in his pockets, staring at the dark street. Across the way, Linda Grayson was in her perfect house, peeking through her pink curtains. She'd just called 911, telling them about a suspicious man at 42 Maple Lane. That was Jake's house. She thought she'd finally caught him. She thought she'd won. Then it happened. Police sirens started wailing, wee-oh-oh, wee-oh-oh, loud and sharp, cutting through the quiet night. 2 police cars rolled into the neighborhood, their red and blue lights flashing like fireworks. Tires crunched on the pavement as they slowed down and stopped right in front of Jake's house. Linda's heart jumped. She smirked. Smirked from her porch, thinking she'd won big time. She pushed her front door open and marched outside, her flip-flops slapping the ground. She was ready to point at Jake and his illegal stairs. She couldn't wait to see the cops drag him away or make him rip those stairs down. She'd show everyone in Maple Grove who was boss. Her yellow hair bounced as she walked, and her big earrings jingled. She stopped at the edge of her yard, crossing her arms, a huge grin on her face. "Here they come," she whispered to herself. "You're done, new guy." The car doors opened, and 2 cops stepped out. One was tall with a serious face, wearing a dark blue uniform. The other was shorter, holding a clipboard and squinting at the houses. Linda waved her hand, ready to yell, "Over here. It's him." She pointed straight at Jake, who was still standing by his stairs, calm as could be. But something funny happened. The cops didn't look at Jake. They didn't walk toward his house. Instead, they turned the other way, right toward her. Their boots thudded on the ground as they crossed the street, heading straight for Linda's perfect little yard. Linda's grin froze. Her arm was still up, pointing at Jake, but now she looked silly. The tall cop stopped in front of her, his face like stone. "Linda Grayson," he said, his voice deep and loud. He held up his clipboard and tapped it with his pen. Linda's jaw dropped. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. What?" she stammered, her eyes big as dinner plates. "I called you. I'm the one who told you to come. It's him, it's that guy." She jerked her thumb at Jake, her voice getting squeaky. "He's the problem. Those stairs are illegal." The shorter cop tilted his head, like he was confused, but he didn't say anything yet. Linda kept talking, her words tumbling out fast. "He's been building those ugly stairs for days. I told him to stop, but he wouldn't listen. He's breaking HOA rules. You need to arrest him or something." She was so mad her face turned red, and her hands shook as she pointed again. But the cops didn't move toward Jake. They stayed right there, staring at her. That's when Jake stepped forward. He'd been quiet this whole time, just watching from his yard. Now he walked over, slow and easy, pulling off his work gloves one finger at a time. The gloves were dirty from all the hammering he'd done, and he tossed them onto his stairs like they didn't matter anymore. He stopped a few steps away from Linda and the cops, his hands in his pockets, a little smile on his face. "Actually, Linda," he said, his voice soft but clear, "I'm not just your neighbor." Linda turned to him, her eyes squinting. "What?" she snapped. "What are you talking about? You're the new guy who won't follow rules." Jake shook his head, still smiling. "Nope," he said. "I'm Officer Jake Carter undercover. And we've been watching you for months." He nodded at the cops, like they were old friends. Linda's face went white. Like, ghost white. Her mouth opened again, but this time nothing came out, not a word, not a sound. She looked like she'd seen a monster. The tall cop stepped closer, flipping a page on his clipboard. "Linda Grayson," he said, reading from it, "you're under arrest for scamming the neighborhood. Faking fines, taking cash, lying to the HOA. We've got proof, lots of it." The shorter cop pulled out a pair of shiny handcuffs, letting them dangle in his hand. Linda blinked fast, like she couldn't believe her ears. What?" she said again, her voice tiny now. "Scamming? Me? No. That's crazy. I didn't do anything." She looked at Jake, then the cops, then back at Jake. "He's lying. He's the bad guy. He built those stairs." But the cops didn't listen. The tall one kept reading from his clipboard. "We've got bank papers, fake letters, and people who saw you do it. It's over, Linda." That's when it hit her. Linda wasn't just a nosy HOA tyrant who yelled at people about their grass or their bikes. She'd been sneaky, really sneaky. For months, she'd been making up fake fines, telling neighbors they broke rules like grass too long or mailbox too rusty. She'd say, "Pay me $50, and I'll fix it with the HOA." But the money didn't go to the HOA. Nope. It went straight into her pocket. She'd been pocketing cash, hundreds of dollars, thinking no one would catch her. She thought she was the smartest person in Maple Grove. But Jake? He was the cop sent to bust her. See, Jake wasn't just some guy with a toolbox and a dream to build stairs. That was his cover, his pretend story. The real Jake was an undercover police officer. Undercover means he acted like a regular person, but secretly, he was working on a case. His job was to move into Maple Grove, watch Linda, and find proof she was a crook. And those stairs? They weren't just for fun. They were bait like a worm on a fishing hook. He built them to make Linda mad, to get her to show her true colors. And it worked. Let's rewind a bit. Months ago, some neighbors got suspicious. They noticed Linda's fines didn't make sense. One guy, Mr. Thompson, got a fine for too many flowers in his yard. Too many flowers? Really? He thought it was fishy, so he told the police. Then Mrs. Carter, no relation to Jake, got a fine for loud birds in her tree. Loud birds? That's not even a rule. She told the police too. Soon, the cops had a pile of weird stories, all pointing to Linda. They needed someone to go in and catch her red-handed. That's where Jake came in. Jake moved to Maple Grove with a plan. He acted like a normal guy, friendly, quiet, a little goofy with his toolbox. He picked the house across from Linda's on purpose. He knew she'd watch him like a hawk, because that's what she did to everyone. And he knew she'd flip out if he broke her precious HOA rules. So, he started building those stairs big, bright, impossible to miss stairs. Every bang of his hammer was like a poke, making her madder and madder. He wanted her to mess up, to do something dumb so the cops could nab her. And boy, did she mess up. Linda stared at Jake, her eyes wide. "You're a cop," she whispered, like it was a bad dream. Jake nodded. "Yup. Been here since January. Watching you yell at people, write fake fines, take their money. We've got it all: pictures, papers, even recordings." He tapped his shirt pocket, like he had a tiny microphone hidden there. Linda's knees wobbled. She looked like she might fall over. The tall cop stepped forward with the handcuffs. "Hands behind your back, Linda," he said. She shook her head fast. "No. This is a mistake. I didn't do anything." "He's lying." She pointed at Jake again, but her hand was shaking now. The cop didn't care. He grabbed her wrist gentle but firm and clicked the handcuffs on. Click, click. Linda gasped. "You can't do this. I'm the HOA queen. I make the rules." "Not anymore," Jake said, crossing his arms. "You broke real laws, Linda. Stealing's a crime. Lying to people's a crime. The HOA can't save you now." The shorter cop nodded. "You'll get to tell your side at the station," he said, "but we've got enough to lock you up for a while." He started walking her toward the police car, one hand on her arm. Linda twisted around, looking at Jake. "This is your fault," she yelled. "Those stupid stairs. You tricked me." Jake just smiled. "You tricked yourself, Linda. I just gave you a push." She kept yelling as the cops led her away. "I'll get you for this. You'll see. I'm not done." But her voice got quieter as they stuffed her into the back of the car. The door slammed shut bang and the sirens started up again. Wee-oh-oh, wee-oh-oh. Jake watched the cars pull away, the lights flashing red and blue in the dark. Linda's perfect house sat quiet behind him, the pink curtain still open from where she'd peeked out. He took a deep breath and let it out slow. His job was done. The stairs had worked. Linda was caught. Maple Grove was safe from her scams, at least for now. The neighborhood was quiet again, just crickets chirping and a soft wind blowing. Jake walked back to his stairs and sat down on the top step. He looked at them, running his hand over the wood. "Not bad," he said to himself. A little bird landed nearby and chirped, like it agreed. Jake laughed. He wasn't just a cop. He was a pretty good builder too. So that's it, the big moment. Linda thought she'd won when those sirens came. She marched out, ready to point at Jake and laugh. But the cops didn't go for him. They went for her. And Jake? He wasn't just her neighbor. He was Officer Jake Carter, undercover hero. Linda's face went white when she heard the truth. She wasn't the HOA queen anymore, she was a crook, caught in her own game. Jake had been watching her for months, and those stairs? They were the trick that made her fall. What a twist, right? Linda thought she had all the power, but Jake had the real power all along. She'd been scamming the neighborhood, faking fines and pocketing cash, and he was the one sent to stop her. The cops took her away, and Jake stayed right where he was, sitting on his stairs. The big reveal was over, but the story's not done yet. What happens next? Stick around to find out. The night air in Maple Grove was cool and quiet, but everything felt different now. The police cars were still there, their red and blue lights flashing across the dark street. Linda Grayson stood in her own front yard, her hands behind her back. The tall cop clicked the shiny handcuffs around her wrists, click, click, and her precious clipboard fell out of her hands. It hit the ground with a loud clatter, bouncing once before landing in the grass. That clipboard was her favorite thing. She'd used it to write down all her rules and fake fines. Now it was just lying there, useless. Linda's face was white, like she'd seen a ghost. Her yellow hair stuck out in messy curls, and her big earrings swung as she shook her head. "This is a mistake," she shouted, her voice loud and squeaky. "You've got the wrong person. I didn't do anything." She twisted around, trying to pull her hands free, but the handcuffs held tight. The shorter cop, the one with the clipboard, shook his head. "No mistake, Linda," he said. We've got proof. Lots of it. Across the street, Jake Carter stood by his red stairs, watching it all. He wasn't smiling yet, just watching, calm and steady. He knew what was happening. He'd worked hard for this moment. The cops started walking Linda toward their car, one on each side of her. She kept yelling, her flip-flops dragging on the ground. Let me go. I'm the HOA queen. You can't do this. But the cops didn't listen. They opened the back door of the police car, and the tall one put a hand on her head so she wouldn't bump it as she got in. Linda didn't want to go. She kicked her legs a little, like a kid who doesn't want a bath, but it didn't help. They pushed her inside, and the door slammed shut bang. Neighbors started peeking out their windows. Lights flicked on in houses up and down Maple Lane. Curtains moved, and faces pressed against the glass. Mr. Thompson, the old guy with the flower garden, opened his window a crack and whispered to his wife, "Look at that. They got Linda." Mrs. Carter, no relation to Jake, stood on her porch in a fluffy robe, her mouth open. Even little Timmy from next door poked his head out, his messy hair sticking up. "Whoa," he said. "Cops got the mean lady." Everyone was whispering, watching, wondering what was going on. Inside the police car, Linda was still shouting. You could hear her through the window, even with it closed. "This isn't fair. I didn't do anything wrong. It's that new guy, blame him." She banged her shoulder against the door, but it didn't open. The tall cop got in the driver's seat, and the shorter one sat next to him. They turned on the engine vroom and the siren started again, softer this time. Wee-oh-oh, wee-oh-oh. The cars rolled down the street, their lights flashing red and blue on the houses as they went. Linda's voice got quieter and quieter until it was gone. They were taking her to the police station, far away from Maple Grove. Jake took a deep breath and let it out slow. He looked at his stairs, 8 steps, painted red, strong and sturdy. He'd built them with his own hands, and they'd done their job. They weren't just stairs, they were the trick that caught Linda. He turned around and saw the neighbors staring. Some were still at their windows, some had stepped onto their porches. They weren't whispering anymore, they were talking louder now, pointing at Linda's house, then at Jake. He could feel their eyes on him, like he was the star of a show. He stepped forward, away from his stairs, and faced the crowd. More people came out now, Mr. Thompson in his slippers, Mrs. Carter with her robe tied tight, little Timmy holding a toy truck. Even the dogs started barking, like they knew something big had happened. Jake raised his hand a little, like he was saying hi. "Hey, everyone," he said, his voice clear and friendly. "Guess you're wondering what's going on." The neighbors nodded, their heads bobbing like toys. "Yeah," Mr. Thompson called. "What happened to Linda?" Mrs. Carter hugged her robe tighter and said, "Is she really gone?" Little Timmy jumped up and down. "Did the cops get her 'cause she's mean?" Jake grinned a big, happy grin that showed his teeth. "Yup," he said. "Linda's gone. The cops took her because she was stealing money from you guys. Faking fines, keeping the cash. But don't worry, she's not coming back for a long time." The crowd gasped, like they'd all sucked in air at once. "Stealing?" Mr. Thompson said, his eyes big. "From us?" Mrs. Carter shook her head. "I knew those fines were weird. Loud birds. That's not a rule." Little Timmy giggled. "She's a bad guy? Like in my comics?" Jake nodded. "Exactly. She thought she could trick everyone, but we caught her. I've got proof, every fake letter she wrote, every shady bank slip she hid. She's done." He paused for a second, then pointed at his stairs. "And these," he said. "The stairs stay." His grin got bigger. "They're mine, and they're not breaking any real rules. Linda just didn't like them 'cause they made her mad." The neighbors laughed, a soft, happy sound that floated through the night. Mr. Thompson clapped his hands. "Good for you, Jake. Those stairs look nice." Mrs. Carter smiled. "They're better than Linda's dumb rules." Little Timmy ran over and touched the stairs. "Cool," he said. "Can I climb 'em?" Jake laughed. "Sure, kid. Go ahead." Timmy scrambled up the steps, his sneakers thumping on the wood. He got to the top and raised his toy truck like a trophy. "I'm king of the stairs," he yelled. Everyone laughed again, louder this time. The dogs barked more, wagging their tails. The night didn't feel heavy anymore, it felt light, like a big weight was gone. Jake looked at the crowd again. "One more thing," he said. "The HOA? It's getting a new leader. Linda's not in charge anymore. You guys deserve someone fair, someone who won't make up silly rules or steal your money." The neighbors cheered, real cheers, loud and happy. "Yay!" Mrs. Carter shouted. "No more Linda." Mr. Thompson pumped his fist. "About time." Even the dogs seemed to cheer, barking and jumping around. Jake stepped back and sat on his stairs, right next to Timmy. The little boy plopped down beside him, swinging his legs. "You're cool, Jake," Timmy said. "You got the bad lady." Jake ruffled Timmy's hair. "Thanks, buddy. Just doing my job." He looked out at the neighbors, who were still clapping and talking. Some were hugging each other, some were shaking their heads like they couldn't believe it. Linda's reign was over. Her time of bossing people around, making them scared, taking their money. It was done. And Jake? He wasn't just a hero. He was their hero. Let's picture it. Linda's house sat dark and quiet across the street. No more yelling, no more notebook, no more flip-flops slapping the ground. The police cars were gone, their lights just a memory now. The neighbors weren't hiding anymore, they were out, together, happy. Jake's red stairs glowed a little under the streetlights, like a sign that things were better. He'd come to Maple Grove as a secret cop, pretending to be a regular guy with a toolbox. He'd built those stairs to catch Linda, and it worked. Now, everyone knew the truth, and they were free. The next morning, the sun came up bright and warm. Maple Grove looked different, like it was smiling. Kids rode their bikes down the street, laughing and racing. Dogs chased each other in the yards, barking at squirrels. Neighbors waved to each other, saying good morning, instead of hiding from Linda's glare. Jake was outside again, sitting on his stairs with a cup of juice. He wore his old jeans and a green shirt, his toolbox open beside him. He wasn't building today, just relaxing. Mr. Thompson walked over, his slippers shuffling on the pavement. "Morning, Jake," he said, holding a plate of cookies. "Made these for you. Thanks for getting rid of Linda." Jake took a cookie and bit into it. Chocolate chip, soft and yummy. "Thanks, Mr. Thompson," he said. "Glad I could help." Mr. Thompson sat on the bottom step, munching a cookie too. "Those finds she made up crazy stuff. Too many flowers? I thought she was nuts." Jake nodded. "She was sneaky. Wrote fake letters, told people they owed money for dumb things. Kept it all for herself." Mr. Thompson shook his head. "Well, she's gone now. Good riddance." He patted the stairs. "These are sturdy. You're good with your hands." Jake grinned. "Thanks. Always liked building stuff. Even when I was a kid." Mrs. Carter came next, still in her fluffy robe. She had a big smile and a cup of coffee in her hand. "Jake, you're a star," she said. "No more loud bird finds for me." She laughed, and Jake laughed too. "Happy to help, Mrs. Carter," he said. "You've got the best birds around." She sat on the stairs too, sipping her coffee. "We should have a party," she said. "Celebrate Linda being gone." Mr. Thompson nodded. "Great idea. Cookies and lemonade for everyone." Little Timmy ran up, his toy truck zooming in his hand. "Jake! Jake!" he yelled. "Can we have the party on your stairs?" Jake chuckled. "Sure, Timmy. They're strong enough for all of us." Timmy climbed up and sat next to Jake again. "You're my hero," he said, hugging his truck. "You beat the bad lady." Jake ruffled his hair again. "Team effort, kid. You guys helped by telling the cops about her finds." More neighbors came over, some with kids, some with dogs, some just curious. They all wanted to say thanks. "Linda was awful," said Mrs. Lopez from down the street. "She fined me for a blue fence. Blue's my favorite color." Jake smiled. "Paint it blue again, Mrs. Lopez. She's not here to stop you." Mrs. Lopez clapped. "I will. Tomorrow." Everyone laughed, and the dogs barked like they were laughing too. The crowd grew bigger. People brought chairs and blankets and sat in Jake's yard. Someone turned on music, happy tunes with guitars and drums. Kids ran around, playing tag. Dogs chased balls. Mr. Thompson passed out cookies, and Mrs. Carter poured lemonade from a big jug. Jake's stairs became the center of it all. People sat on them, leaned against them, even danced near them. Best stairs ever. Timmy yelled, racing his truck up and down the steps. Jake watched it all, his juice cup in his hand. He felt good, really good. He'd come to Maple Grove with a secret job: catch Linda, stop her scams. He'd pretended to be a regular guy, built those stairs to make her mad, and waited for her to slip up. She did big time. Now, she was gone, and the neighborhood was happy again. The proof he'd collected, fake letters, bank slips, even recordings from a tiny microphone, had sealed the deal. Linda couldn't wiggle out of it. Justice was served, like a big plate of cookies for everyone. The party went on all day. The sun climbed high, then started to dip, turning the sky orange and pink. Neighbors talked and laughed, sharing stories about Linda's silly rules. "She fined me for a loud mailbox," said Mr. Lee, an old man with a cane. "How's a mailbox loud?" Everyone giggled. "She told me my dog barked too much," said Jenny, a girl with pigtails. "But he's quiet." Her little dog wagged its tail, and people petted it. "Linda was nuts," Mrs. Carter said, sipping her lemonade. "Good thing Jake showed up." Jake didn't say much, just listened and smiled. He liked seeing everyone happy. The stairs stayed, just like he'd said. They weren't illegal. Linda had made that up. The real HOA rules didn't care about stairs, as long as they were safe. And Jake's were super safe. He'd made sure of that. The new HOA leader would be picked soon, someone nice, someone fair. Maybe Mr. Thompson, with his cookies, or Mrs. Carter, with her big smile. Whoever it was, they'd be better than Linda. As the sun went down, the party slowed. Kids yawned, dogs curled up in the grass, and grown ups packed up their chairs. "Thanks, Jake," they kept saying as they left. "You're the best." Jake waved. "Anytime, guys. Glad you're free now." Little Timmy was the last to go. He hugged Jake's leg. "You're my superhero," he said, sleepy but happy. Jake bent down and hugged him back. "You're pretty cool too, Timmy. See you tomorrow." Timmy ran off, his truck in his hand, yelling, "Stair King forever." Jake sat alone on his stairs, the night quiet again. Crickets chirped, and stars twinkled above. Linda's house was dark, no lights, no yelling. The clipboard was still in her yard, forgotten. Jake picked up his juice cup and took a sip. He'd done it. Linda was gone, her scams were over, and justice was served. The neighbors cheered him, and he felt like their hero. Not a cop hero with a badge, just a guy with a toolbox who cared. Maple Grove was peaceful now. No more fake fines, no more mean rules. Jake's stairs stood tall, a sign of his win. He leaned back, looking at the sky. "Not bad," he said to himself. A little bird chirped nearby, like it agreed. Jake smiled. He wasn't just a hero, he was home. The night was over in Maple Grove, and everything was quiet again. The police cars were gone, Linda was gone, and Jake Carter sat alone on his red stairs. The stars twinkled above, like little lights saying good job. The crickets chirped in the grass, and a soft wind blew through the trees. Jake's little white house at 42 Maple Lane looked peaceful, and those stairs, 8 steps, strong and bright, stood tall in the dark. The neighbors had gone home, their cheers still ringing in his ears. Linda's perfect house across the street was dark and empty, her clipboard still lying in the yard like a lost toy. It was all done. But before we say goodbye to the story, let's think about what it means. What's the lesson here? Let's figure it out together. Sometimes, the person you think is powerless is the one holding all the cards. That's a big idea, right? Let's break it down. Linda Grayson thought she was the queen of Maple Grove. She walked around with her nose in the air, her flip-flops slapping, her notebook full of rules. She yelled at people, made up fines, and took their money. She thought she had all the power, like she was the boss of everyone. And when Jake moved in, she looked at him and saw just a regular guy. A new guy with a rusty toolbox, messy hair, and a quiet smile. She judged him fast. He's nothing, she thought. Just some guy with a hammer. I'll make him follow my rules. But Linda was wrong. So wrong. Jake wasn't powerless. He wasn't just some guy. He was holding all the cards like in a card game where you've got the best ones hidden in your hand. He was an undercover cop, smart and sneaky, with a big plan. Linda didn't see it coming. She never even guessed. She thought she could push him around, scare him with her loud voice and her 911 calls. But Jake? He was the one in charge the whole time. He built those stairs to trick her, watched her every move, and waited for her to mess up. And when she did, he showed his cards, bam, and won the game. Think about that for a second. Linda judged Jake by what she saw on the outside. His hammer, his old jeans, his quiet way of talking. She didn't look deeper. She didn't ask questions. She just decided he was small, weak, easy to boss around. But the truth? It came out of nowhere and hit her like a big surprise. Jake was strong not with muscles or loud words, but with brains and patience. He didn't need to yell or fight. He just waited, and when the time was right, he showed who he really was. Linda's jaw dropped, her face went white, and she was done. Next time you meet someone, think twice, they might just surprise you. Let's imagine it. Picture Jake sitting on his stairs that first day, banging nails into the wood. Bang, bang, bang. Linda strutted over, yelling about rules, thinking she'd scare him. He smiled, quiet, friendly, no big deal. She thought that smile meant he was weak. But that smile? It was hiding something huge. It was like a secret door, and behind it was Officer Jake Carter, undercover hero. Linda didn't knock on that door. She didn't peek inside. She just saw the hammer and the smile and said, "I've got him." Nope. He had her. What if Linda had been nicer? What if she'd said, "Hey, new guy, welcome to Maple Grove. Cool stairs," instead of yelling? Maybe things would have been different. Maybe she'd still be the HOA queen, bossing people around with her notebook. But she didn't. She judged him fast, and that was her mistake. She didn't think twice. She didn't wonder, who is this guy really? What's his story? If she had, she might have seen the truth sooner. But she didn't, and that's why she lost. Now, let's think about you. Yeah, you, the kid reading this. Have you ever met someone and thought, oh, they're just this or they're just that? Maybe a quiet kid at school, sitting in the back, not talking much. You might think, they're shy. They don't do anything cool. But what if they're super good at drawing? Or they know all about dinosaurs? Or maybe they're secretly awesome at soccer but just don't show off. You don't know until you look closer. People can surprise you, just like Jake surprised Linda. Take my friend Tommy, for example. Tommy's a made-up kid, but pretend he's real. He's small, wears glasses, and doesn't talk a lot in class. Everyone thinks he's boring. But one day, the teacher asks for help with a math problem super hard, with big numbers and tricky steps. Tommy raises his hand, slow and quiet, and solves it in, like, 10 seconds. Boom. Everyone's jaws drop. Turns out, Tommy's a math wizard. He's been holding those cards all along, but nobody saw it cause they didn't look. Linda's like that with Jake, she didn't look, and she paid the price. So, what's the lesson? Don't judge people by what you see first. A hammer doesn't mean someone's just a builder. A quiet smile doesn't mean someone's weak. People are like presents, you've got to unwrap them to see what's inside. Linda thought Jake was a plain box, nothing special. But inside? He was a shiny surprise, full of power she didn't expect. Next time you meet someone, don't stop at the wrapping. Peek a little. Ask a question. Say hi. You might find a hero or at least a friend. Let's go back to Maple Grove for a minute. Picture the neighborhood now. Linda's gone, hauled off in that police car, yelling all the way. Her house is dark, her clipboard's in the grass, and her rules don't matter anymore. Jake's stairs are still there, red and proud, glowing under the streetlights. The neighbors are happy, kids ride bikes, dogs chase balls, grown UPS wave and smile. Jake's sitting on those stairs, sipping juice, thinking about it all. He didn't just catch a bad guy. He taught everyone something big. Think about the neighbors too. They judged Jake at first, didn't they? When he moved in, they saw a guy with a toolbox and thought, oh, he's just new. Linda will boss him around. They peeked from their windows, waiting for her to win. But Jake flipped it all upside down. He showed them Linda was the bad one, and he was the good one. Now they cheer for him. Mr. Thompson brings cookies, Mrs. Carter pours lemonade, little Timmy calls him a superhero. They learned the lesson to don't judge too fast. The quiet guy with the hammer? He's their hero. What about you again? Ever feel like people judge you wrong? Maybe you're quiet, and they think you're shy. Or you're small, and they think you're weak. Or you like books, and they think you're boring. But you've got cards too, don't you? Maybe you're awesome at drawing, or you can run super fast, or you make the best jokes. You don't have to show everyone right away like Jake, you can hold those cards close. Wait for the right moment, then surprise them. Boom. Just like Jake with Linda. Let's imagine a school playground. Kids are playing, some loud, some fast, some climbing high. There's a girl, Sarah, sitting by a tree with a book. She's quiet, her hair in a braid, her sneakers scuffed. The loud kids don't notice her. She's just a reader, they say. Nothing cool. But one day, there's a contest who can tell the best story. The loud kids try, but their stories are short and messy. Sarah stands up, slow and calm, and tells a tale about dragons and pirates and a secret cave. Her voice is soft, but her words paint pictures, big, wild pictures. Everyone's quiet, listening, jaws dropping. Sarah's got cards nobody saw. She's not just a reader, she's a storyteller, and she wins the day. That's what Jake did. He told a story with his stares, not with words, but with actions. He built them, step by step, while Linda yelled and stomped. He let her think she was winning, let her judge him wrong. Then, when the cops came, he showed his cards. Officer Jake Carter, undercover cop. Linda's story ended, and his began. He didn't need to be loud or mean. He just needed to be smart, patient, and ready. And he was. So, here's the big idea again, sometimes the person you think is powerless is the one holding all the cards. Linda judged Jake by his hammer and his quiet smile, but she never saw the truth coming. She thought he was small, but he was big. She thought he was weak, but he was strong. She thought she'd win, but she lost big time. Next time you meet someone, think twice. Don't just look at their outside, their clothes, their voice, their stuff. Look a little deeper. They might surprise you, just like Jake surprised Linda. Let's picture one more thing. You're walking down your street, and there's a new kid. He's got a backpack and sneakers, nothing fancy. He's quiet, kicking a rock as he goes. You could think, oh, he's just new. Nothing special. But what if he's got a secret talent? Maybe he can juggle 5 balls at once, or he knows every star in the sky, or he's training to be a ninja. You won't know unless you say hi. Give him a chance. He might be holding cards you can't see yet. Back in Maple Grove, the sun's coming up now. The night's over, and the neighborhood's awake. Jake's still on his stairs, finishing his juice. A little bird hops by and chirps, like it's saying thanks. The neighbors start their day, kids with bikes, dogs with wagging tails, grown UPS with coffee. Linda's house stays dark, a reminder of what happened. Jake's stairs stay bright, a reminder of who won. He didn't just catch a crook, he showed everyone something true. Power isn't always loud. It's not always big or shiny. Sometimes it's quiet, hidden, waiting for the right time. So, what's the lesson for you? Be like Jake. Don't judge fast, and don't let others judge you wrong. Hold your cards, your talents, your ideas, your strength close until you're ready. Then, when the moment's right, show them. Surprise the world. Linda never saw Jake's truth coming, and that's why he beat her. Next time you meet someone, think twice. They might be a Jake, quiet on the outside, a hero on the inside. And you? You might be a Jake too. The world's full of surprises. Go find them.